stuck. I'm stuck. There we go. Well, I suppose we ought to start with an announcement on masks, since I just struggled with mine. State of Oregon is going away from the mask mandate. Next Saturday will be again, unless things change, because the state polity around it all, things shift. But the state mask mandate is going to be lifted at the end of March 11th at midnight. So March 12th, it means there will no longer be the state mask mandate. And what we are going to say in our language is that masks become optional at that time. The CDC is still strongly recommending that people who are vulnerable or respiratory issues or anything continue to wear a mask. And we really want to put that onus on you guys as individuals, as opposed to the church or the state mandating that you make an informed decision in terms of what is best for you. Which means next Sunday, masks will be optional in church. What I want to talk about a little bit, though, is making sure that our first priority is loving each other. Right? Even if somebody comes and they have their mask off, and you see someone else with their mask off, one person may have their mask off in excitement and celebration, finally freedom, and down with the tyranny, and whatever their position is. And the other person may be coming full of anxiety and fear, nervousness, but stepping out into an uncomfortable space, being brave. And so what I want to encourage us is to make sure that we are not making assumptions of the people we are coming to church with. They're still recommending social distancing. I'm going to encourage you all to still wash your hands, even when there's not a pandemic. That's just a good thing to do. And just to really come with that intention of being respectful towards other people and where they're at. My biggest fear with moving to a masks optional piece would be that there would be shaming from one side or the other. Like, I can't believe you're still wearing a mask. There's no rule. Don't you follow the science? And, and another like, do you not care about other people? And that's, and I know it seems silly, but my biggest fear is just that we've come out of a pandemic where we've been isolated, we haven't been seeing people. Some of us have forgotten how to act in social settings in a mature way, unfortunately. And I want to make sure that as a church, we lean into loving each other first and not the shaming. And I think I want to emphasize too, you're going to get a mini sermon during announcements. Paul, when he was in Corinth, they were eating meats that were sacrificed to idols. Right? But he had freedom. He's like, well, I don't actually believe, there's no power in that. That's just silliness. And so I believe that in Christ, I have this freedom to eat the meat, and it's not sacrilege, it's not worshiping a false god, whatnot. But some others came visiting from Jerusalem, and they were very concerned that Paul was eating. And he's like, you know what? I believe I have this freedom. But also, if it offends you, I also have the freedom to abstain from it. Right? So there's this argument, too, that if you have the freedom to be mask-free, you also have the freedom to wear a mask if it makes the people you are engaging with more comfortable, less anxious, if that's a better form of loving one another. So just kind of, I want to lean into that mindset, lean into a position that we're going to love people, that other people are more important than our rights and our freedom and our position, whatever it may be. And just to go gently in this next season, knowing that people are coming from different states. Some people have been going out and dining. Some people haven't been anywhere yet. And it's going to be a process as we continue to reemerge. The other warning I want to kind of just give around masks is last summer, Oregon went away with the mask mandate. I think it lasted, 3 weeks? And then it came back. And so just because we are moving in this direction with the state does not mean things will not change yet again, or another variant comes out and a new mandate or any of those things. And so we just are going to walk very open-handedly. We're going to make sure we're loving people, and we're going to stay flexible and adapt to whatever comes our way. Do you guys think we can do that and move forward, being aware of people's safety concern in a loving, compassionate way? That is my desire in this. A couple of other announcements is we have the Red Cross Blood Drive, March 11th, so Friday, 10 a.m. to 3:30, and I think there's a couple spots still. And Peggy, do you have enough help the day of at the table?
It's wonderful. Yes, I do. I believe we can cover it with the help that I've got. And we are going for 52 donors. 52 donors. So that's huge for us.
Yeah.
But I think we've got help. We can do this.
Excellent. Lent, as the season of Lent, actually officially started last Wednesday, and will go through April 14th. And we'll be talking about Lent and what that represents a little bit in our sermon today. There's also another issue that somebody in our congregation had a birthday this week. And I think it's important to celebrate people. Susan, whose birthday was it this week?
I can't begin to know.
You can't begin. You can't begin to know. It was definitely somebody's. It was Susan's birthday on Tuesday, right? So Kelly and Peggy, I'm looking, made some cupcakes, and there's some treats afterwards. We try to work low sodium as possible, so little cupcakes too, so you can indulge, but it was Susan's birthday, and so stick around afterwards just to have a cupcake, have a cup of coffee, and we'll celebrate her accordingly. So also with this church, I don't know, I feel like we've sung happy birthday in church, but is that kind of the normal? Is that what you guys feel good with? Normal sing, yeah. I don't sing, so, and it would be weird to like, hey, Susan, can you lead us in a song of happy birthday? So this is the responsibility is going to be you as a congregation. As we begin to sing happy birthday, like, I need you to sing, because you don't want me singing. And so I will start out just because somebody asked you, but I need you all to join in, and then I'm muting this thing. All right? So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Susan. Happy birthday to you. Listen, you all sound way better than me. I appreciate that. Today's also a little bit different because we are celebrating our ash service today as part of Lent. We didn't do it on Wednesday. We wanted to make sure that people were able to be here. And so we are going to move our joys and concerns, our prayer requests to this time, leaving the back end to be able to focus on the imposition of ashes and whatnot. So are there things that we need to be praying about as a church? Norm?
Yeah, I have one quick announcement. The United Methodist General Conference of 2020, which was delayed to 2022, has now been delayed to 2024. And probably most people don't realize. Anyway, I'd be happy to discuss my interpretation of that significance with anybody that wants to listen to me.
Yeah, there are some challenges around there and some votes and decisions that need to be made and keep getting pushed off, but the concerns about trying to force one has mostly to do with access to technology if it was a full virtual, as the UMC is a global denomination, and then right now, even with COVID and mask lifting, there is still a lot of restrictions on visas, so trying to get everybody in one space is also not practical, and then you have certain demographics not being represented in terms of voting and decision making, and so long process, but that is where we're at as a denomination.
Yeah, one of the major issues was getting visas in the United States for a lot of people in Africa and the rest of the world, Asia,
not feeling well, and has not been feeling well all week, and so we can be praying for her as a congregation as well, and continue to pray for Mike and his recovery. He had surgery on his wrist. Other prayers.
I had a joy last weekend. Our family got together for the first time in a long, long time. We called it Christmas. And so it's the first time I've had 25 people in my house in a long time. And we talked about, our parents that raised us with love, and our kids told us we did an okay job raising.
Yeah. Families being able to come together again, and I know it's not the only story I've heard of people like having extended family gathering for the first time since the pandemic, and so I think that is a joy, bringing people back and families.
And we also have very, very strong prayers for a very close friend, Isabel Bullock. She was a member of our Metro Methodist United Methodist partner member. Her husband has had a history of bipolar disease, and so things have been going on, with that. And Marissa's been very faithful and worked her vessel of heart with him and that sort of thing. 2 weeks ago, he did not return to his apartment, and he was later found in a homeless shelter or homeless area, and he was found shot. And so, definitely, it's just it's her sons and all her family that solely need her. So.
Yeah, and what was her name again, and his name?
Marissa.
Excellent. So Marissa's family, husband, bipolar, significant episode, ended up at a houseless encampment and later found shot. And so prayers for the family, sons, all of that. There is the mental health condition right now is leading to a lot of tragedy in our community, and COVID and the isolation has certainly exacerbated a lot of existing mental health conditions, and it's people out there doing the work are stretched thin right now. So we pray for that.
I have two of them. Pray for the trauma and mental health of all the refugees living in Ukraine, all the people in their country. And also prayers for me for this week, as I go in for shock therapy on my plantar fasciitis. So going 8 months strong with tons of pain every day. Hopefully this will be the ticket that gets rid of it.
Yeah, shock therapy for plantar fasciitis. Yeah,
it's not like that. It's sound waves.
That sounds intense, but certainly we will be praying for Lisa too. Yeah, eight months. I usually, when I have plantar fasciitis, it flares up for 2 weeks and then goes away. I could not imagine 8 months of ongoing pain. So we'll be praying for Lisa in that, and then also just for the Ukraine and the war and soldiers and families and kids and loss of life and just the trauma of having your neighborhood as a war zone. Often we think of wars in other places, but when it's your neighborhood, it certainly changes the impact on that. So, any other prayers or concerns before we?
I've got one. I've got a customer that comes in. His name's Paul, and his mother lives in Ukraine right now. And so, he was asking for prayers and for safety and all that.
Yeah, so bringing it closer to home, Will has a customer named Paul whose mother and family are still in the Ukraine. So praying for them specifically. All right, will you guys join with me in prayer? Father God, I feel like this morning there's a lot that this small group has to bring before you. And even thoughts and concerns and prayer requests that we haven't vocalized. And I just pray that you would be with us. I just think all the passages which speak of the work of your Spirit, of your presence being with us in times of trouble. Scripture doesn't necessarily say you'll save us from all of that trouble, but that we'll not be alone in it. So I ask that your presence would overshadow every issue and request that has been spoken and unspoken. Lord, we do pray for what's going on in the Ukraine, specifically for family members where it comes so close to home. But I pray that you would protect people in miraculous ways. I pray that you would bring healing. I pray that there would be amazing works of humanitarian aid and relief as people rally. Lord, I pray that you would change and transform our hearts around so much violence, even loss of life for Marissa's husband, or mental illness, escalating issues, the loss of life, the impact on family. And be with people as they grieve. Pray that you would remind us of hope and joy. Lord, we pray for those in our congregation that we know are sick, as Lori's at home and Mike's recovering and Lisa's about to go into shock therapy and has been dealing with ongoing pain for 8 months. Lord, we just pray that you would bring relief, that you would give us the ability to endure. But also, we pray for the miraculous, where ailments just disappear without reason. Miracles happen to encourage our faith, to be testimonies to others. But I pray that through all of our joys and our concerns, our successes and our struggles, that our testimony would point people to you. Lord, even as we come into the season of Lent and it's somber and it's repentant, Lord, I pray that our hope would be in the cross that is drawn from the ash, the work that you've done. Lord, transform our lives and give us hope. Praise in your name. Amen. Scripture reading? Oh yeah, I should do those things. Thanks. I got so focused on the prayer, and then we're doing joys and concerns, and this is what happens when I change the order of things. This is good. This is why we keep her around. Would you all stand for me, with me for the scripture reading this morning and the call to worship? Excellent. I thought you were doing those this week. No. I'll take responsibility for that. The scripture readings, we've been going through Nehemiah and coming into a time of Lent to the nation went into a time of prayer and fasting. So this is where we find ourselves in Nehemiah 9, verse 1. And it says, "Now on the 24th day of this month, the people of Israel were assembled with fasting and in sackcloth and with earth on their heads." And our call to worship this morning says, "God's people have been called to gather. God's people have been called to repent. God's people have been called to be reconciled to our God. From those that turned away to those whose name whispers in the night, all are welcome." Amen. You may be seated. And now she's going to do music. again. You guys are going to like not having to deal with this. I know I will. So Lent, and the season we're entering into, it's kind of supposed to be somewhat solemn. Supposed to remind us of our mortality. It's also supposed to remind us of kind of our consequences of sin, which is what Jesus died on the cross for. And it's this build up to Easter, right? And like studying a little bit of the history around it, Lent first kind of came about within the Catholic Church, and it was actually this a series. As people were becoming members of the Catholic Church, there was a series of classes they would take. And usually the last kind of the class was really focused on, now that you were stepping into a new life as a Christian, what were things you were going to be giving up? And so that was kind of one of the final pieces. And then typically the new members were brought into the church kind of around Easter anyways. It was springtime and announced and all of that. And it was such a rich practice that they kind of moved from like, well, how come only the people in this class get to do this? We see significance in this. And so it kind of went out of the class and kind of shifted into just becoming a practice of the church. And certain evangelical Protestant groups kind of continued that practice, and it didn't just stay as a Catholic church piece. The 40 days, and again, it's one of those interesting things because Lent isn't like a ritual or a tradition or a practice you actually find in Scripture. You can't go in there and like, oh, this is when they did Lent, and this is how long they did it, and this is why we practice it. This was something that came about as an expression of worship after Scripture was done, and people were looking to bring meaning and significance in. And so the 40 days kind of symbolizes Jesus' 40 days before he started his earthly ministry. 40 days is kind of, the number 40 shows up a few times in Scripture. There's 40 years of rain with Noah. And so just over and over, he kind of creeps in the 40 years in the wilderness before the Israelites went into the Promised Land, right? So 40 days. I don't know that you could argue that like this is super spiritual or intended or God ordained. But one of the interesting things about things that we decide to make sacred is that literally sacred means it's set apart for a purpose. And so we take 40 days leading up to Easter and we set them apart. And what makes it sacred is not the time frame because, we find it in Scripture or the clouds parted and spoke to us, you shall fast for 40 days or any of those things. But it's our intention. And we would use that word in our benediction every week. Our intention as we set this apart is what makes it sacred. And if we lean meaning into it, if we bring weight into it, then it's this piece we can carry with us. Lent is usually kicked off with an Ash Wednesday service. Ash Sunday, I really think Ash Sundays are going to carry on. You're going to see this more and more in church. I'm just convinced of it. It's going to start here. We will be famous. Our Ash Sunday service, like the ashes, are to kind of remind us a bit of that mortality. When Adam and Eve were being invited to leave the Garden of Eden. That's a nice way of saying kicked out. They were invited to leave. God spoke to them and kind of reminded, like, from dust you came, and to dust you will return. And it was the first kind of awareness of the consequences of sin leading to death. Right? They missed the mark in the garden, and part of that initial fall of humankind led to this consequence of death. And so Ash Wednesday is to remind us a little bit of our mortality. We will be put back to the earth. Romans also says, for the wages of sin is death, kind of and reinforcing, and that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Therefore, this piece of ending is a reality. And I think what's fascinating is throughout history and different cultures and lores, there's always this pursuit of eternal life. There's stories and this and how you find it. Drink this water, this well, and superpowers if you are a Marvel fan, and this pursuit of eternal life, because we have this fear of death, or this fear of unknowing, this fear of things ending, and so we come in almost even as an acknowledgement. All right, Lord, I understand. This body is going to fail me, and I'm going to be returned to the earth in the form of dust and ashes. There's also a piece where I think it's important to know that, just even the idea that all of our aspirations, right? There's this part, in Scripture, it says that, there's a way that seems right to a person, but in the end only leads to destruction, right? So this idea that oftentimes we come up with these great plans. We're going to conquer the world. We're going to build a business. We're going to have this grand church. We're going to whatever. We come up with these goals, but that apart from Christ, everything is subject to destruction and ruin. And so ashes even represents a little bit of all of our aspirations failing and being burned apart from Christ. Now the hope, and I think it's important as we lean towards Easter, right? This is the death, burial, resurrection of Christ. One of the pinnacle celebrations of the Christian church is that the ashes are drawn in the form of a cross, because yes, while we're in ashes, we have hope. Right? That we're not, it's not just doom and glooming, woe is me, nothing matters, and right? Because we are not without hope. I should say, I hope that you are not without hope. That you have this faith, this drawing, this confidence in the work that God has done, and hopefully God has done in your life as we come before Him. And we find this kind of throughout the Old Testament too, where people would often sit in sackcloth and ashes. And sometimes it was as a national assembly, and sometimes people did it individually based on where they were. And when a person kind of in a stage of their life was at a low point, they would often end up wearing a sackcloth and ashes on their head, or just dust and dirt to symbolize they were at a low point. Sometimes it happened after the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it was after a great sin that they were called out for. And so even this process, if you choose to come forward and get ashes in the form of a cross, it's this acknowledgement that apart from God, we're at a low point in our life. Where we've been at with the story of Nehemiah, they come to this national assembly where the whole country, or at least the Jewish people, were choosing to do a national fast, repentance. And one of the things that's interesting, even as we talk about it, it wasn't really even Israel at that point, because the land had been conquered by the Persians. Initially conquered by Babylon, but then Persia conquered Babylon, and so there's this constant shifting of power, identity, structure. And there was this loss of some of their Jewish culture. There was this loss of their devotion to God. And that's kind of what the assembly was kind of bringing back to. This, hey, let's not forget our origins. Let's not forget it's about the sovereign God who saved us, who brought us out of slavery and into the promised land, who's constantly shown up for us over and over and over again. Let us not forget and draw us back to God. And so hopefully that becomes our heart, that let's just not forget, regardless of where we are now. Let us not forget. And there is a faith that's corporate, but I would also encourage you, let you not forget your story. So even this week, I would encourage you to think through, reflect, meditate with a candle, write in a journal, something, share your story with a loved one or a friend. But when did that faith become real to you? Right? If you grew up in the church, oftentimes there's a speech, you're going to church because mom and dad are making you or grandma's dragging you. We actually call that a drug problem, when your family drug you to church all the time. That was a horrible pun, but, right? Sorry. I heard that the other day and I had to work it in. But oftentimes there's this moment when that faith shifts from just maybe a practice or a ritual to having meaning and significance for you. There was some moment where either a decision, a determination in your life where you saw the church at work and the people at work and you went, I believe, I'm not just doing this anymore. But it shifts from someone else's faith to an ownership. This is my faith. And I think sometimes we get so busy in our lives and doing church and whatnot that we even forget our own origin story. And so I'd encourage you this week, find a way to spend time with that moment where that faith became real to you. Because that was the whole point of the sacred assembly for the Israelites here in Nehemiah, was let us not forget. Let us return to this point with God where it really mattered. I do think it's important. Nehemiah is a little bit of a weird book. And we're kind of skipping from chapter 4 all the way to 9 with this fasting and sacred assembly. But there was this desire for the Israelites, right, to return to God, but it also came with this emphasis of cultural purity. Right? Ezra, who was a priest at the time, really calling the church or the Israelites to repentance. And the big piece around it, and the assumption was they were losing their identity in Christ because people had intermarried. Right? So the nations conquered, other people, cultures, traditions moving in, and the Israelite men who were still there found these foreign women attractive. And in a horrible state, and this is where I do agree, right? Because even when you go back to Adam and Eve, like, the woman made me do it. And now we have this piece of, like, this feeling that the nation is losing their identity in God. And so, it's them foreign women, right? And so the Israelites were actually instructed to basically put off all of their foreign wives. And you have this thing within the history of the church and Scripture, it's been translated in a few pieces where, God hates divorce, but there was this sacred decree in this National Assembly that basically said, get rid of them all. That was your sin because you have corrupted the purity of the Jewish culture. There are some things as we look at the church and the history of the church where there are ugly things that the church has done. And I think it's important that part of our repentance, part of our leaning into a season of Lent is even owning that. Right? Recently there's even been people who've used passages of Nehemiah and what I would even call have weaponized Scripture to use it against people. We need a wall to create purity, to keep people out. Think through the history of the church and even going back to the Crusades where we were wiping out entire people groups. And there was a religious piece, there was also an economic factor that was driving the Crusades. The spice trade and this and that, but we used Scripture to weaponize, to do harm in the name of God. The Inquisitions throughout Europe. You have the pagans in England as the whole people group groups were being wiped out so they could Christianize them. They could make them more, sophisticated. Bringing it closer to home, in the Pacific Northwest, where we drove out indigenous people groups because they were not as developed as we are. And so we stole land from them. We put their children into Christian schools and even Methodist schools where they weren't allowed to speak their native language. They weren't allowed to go by the names that they grew up with, but had to take a Western name and behave like white people, civilized people, in the name of God. In Portland, we had an internment camp for the Japanese during World War II up by the Expo Center. A whole people group who were taken from their homes and their lands and their business and put into a concentration camp right here on American soil. And their businesses were looted and property lost, and they weren't working, so they couldn't make payments, and land being repossessed and wealth stolen from them to preserve and bring safety. And I'm not political side, was that right, was that wrong, was this, whatnot. It's just a reality that the church has been a part of doing great harm when there's been misunderstanding. And I even think in the moment there's good intention and struggling and trying to understand, and I don't want to and as a country, there are moments we've done great harm. And if we're going to go into a season of repentance, I think we have to bring forth with us this repentance for the harm and the destruction that has been done. I think of the phrase like the road to hell has been paved with good intentions. And some of it, evil intentions. One of the other pieces here in Nehemiah where they were coming to in terms of correcting and rebuking, and the thing that had to be repented of is, with the land and the whatnot conquered continuously, there was kind of a loss of ownership of local farms. And so certain people moved in and became wealthy, and they owned that land. And then you as a family could, lease that farmland, but it wasn't yours. So you had to work the farmland, and the owners would take a portion, right? And they own it, so rightfully so. But as a famine began to work out, there was less and less food, and the wealthy began taking more and more apportionments to where those who were actually working the field were going without food. They didn't have enough food to feed their family, but the wealthy were doing okay. The landowners were doing all right because they kept taking more and more. And so there was this abuse of privilege, this abuse of wealth. And I think you can carry that into the American culture and looking at some of our marginalized demographics and people group where there has been issues that haven't been good. And we have to carry with us that. And I think it's easy to go, well, it's 2022, Pastor Stephen. I didn't do those things. But do we come forth as a people and say, you know what, I am part of the church. And if I'm going to say I'm part of the church, then I also carry the responsibility of the church history. And if I'm an American, then I carry with me some of the responsibility of what America has done, even if it wasn't me personally. And I have enough of my own sins that I also need to come and repent. Well, it's all them. I'm repenting for other people. Like, I have my own errors. And so we come knowing that the wages of sin is death. Apart from God, I have very little hope. There's not a hope of redemption. There's not a hope of salvation. There's not a hope of eternal life. It's just ashes. It's just ruin. It's just destruction. If I don't lean into that hope of God. I think, looking globally a little bit to what's going on in Ukraine right now, after World War II, The Russians wanted control over lands that they liberated, and we formed the USSR. And forced communism, forced socialism, people stripped of rights, and now USSR has broken up, but Russia going back and saying, but we want this land back. We want the riches that are found within the land. And therefore, a whole people group matter less than what another people group want. Humankind, so let's not even just go from the church as a country, but humans, of which we are all part of, have carried with us great destruction. Because we're right and they're wrong. Because we want what you have. Because you've offended us. And in names of righteousness with an intent of doing good, or in the name of God, we have done great harm to other people. To God's people. Right? John 3:16, for God so loved the world. Right? That doesn't say for God so loved the church, for God so loved Christians, for God so loved Democrats or Republicans, or for God so loved Americans. For God so loved the world, which includes people who don't look like you, think like you, speak like you, that He sent His one and only Son, that whosoever shall believe in Him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And He did that through the work of the cross. And so yes, let's come solemn, let's come repentant. It should be weighty, but it is not without hope. Right? I think also the scripture says we are all aliens in a foreign land. Right? This world is not my home, but my identity, if it is in Christ, then my hope is in Christ. And so today, as we celebrate our ash service, have some ashes prepared, and we will put it on either your forehead or your hand, whichever you choose. And it's to be a reminder that yes, there's destruction, but yes, there is hope. What we'll do is Susan will sing our songs, and encourage you guys to continue to sing with as we learn to re-engage in corporate worship, and even songs that we're learning that are new. But I think what I'll ask you guys to do is come down the side aisles and then come to the front if you wish to receive ashes. And then you can return to your seat down the middle aisle, so that way we kind of keep things flowing. And just at any point during the singing, the worship through song experience, you can sit, take a moment and pray, and when you're ready, then come up. And very intentionally, we're going to use this phrase today with the imposition of the ashes. It's repent and believe and be filled with hope. Right? Be filled with hope. Because I don't want us to miss that last part. Because it is all about the work of Christ. And the work of Christ in us as a church, as Christians, as a nation, as humanity, but also the work of Christ in me as an individual that brings me this hope. Again, you can come forward at any point you feel comfortable.
Thank you.
believe, and be filled with hope. These are powerful words, and I hope we do not miss the significance of it. It's interesting when we partake of ritual and tradition, because it can be just another thing we do. It can be another thing that's just expected of us. Or we can bring with it meaning and significance. And I hope that this service and this season of Lent is filled with meaning and purpose for you. I think it can be a rich time as we lean into reflecting on the work that God has done in us to bring us to where we are and the hope that we have. So would you all stand with me for the reading of our benediction? Do not be dismayed by the wickedness of this world. All things great and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is in you. Amen. As we go, I just want to remind you that we do have some cupcakes in the foyer celebrating the life of one of our congregants and celebrating the fact that Susan was born and has joined us. So please stick around and have a cupcake, have a cup of coffee, or take a cupcake to go, whatever you need to do. Go with God.